अकुल हृदय मृगधारक अभसेन
एवं घटमान मनोरथा आकुल हृदयो मृगधारकाभासेन
स्व आरब्ध कर्मण योग आरम्भणतः विभ्रांशितः सह योग तपसः भगवत आराधन लक्षणात्
स्व कर्मण योगारम्भणतो विप्रशितैर्योगतापसो भगवद् आराधन लक्षणाच्च
कथां इतरता जति अंतरे येन कुणके असंगः साक्षात् निरसेय प्रतिपक्षतया
चाहकताम् इति अर्थे जते
रथा जात्यंतर
पुण्यका
एण कुणक असंग साक्षात् श्रेयस प्रतिपक्षतया
प्राक् परित्यक्त जुस्यज हृदय अभिजातस्य तस्य एवं अंतराय विहत योग आरंभणस्य
हृदयाभिजातस्य तस्य मनंतराय विहत
राजऋषेः भरतस्य तावत् मृग अर्भक पोषण पालन प्रीणन लालन अनुसंगेन अविगणयतः
राजर्षे भरतस्य तावन मृगाभृक पोषण पालन प्रीणन ललान अंगना विगण्यत
आत्मानाम् अहि इव अकुबिलं दुरतिक्रमः कालः कारल रभसः अपद्यत
आत्मानाम्
हरि बाकुबिलं दुरतिक्रम काल रभस आपद्धत
Somebody like you?
Okay,
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, then what now? Just a minute. Translation purport by Shri Prabhupada. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Sukhdev Goswami continued. My dear king, in this way, Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire, which was manifest in form of the deer. Just a second. Yeah. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity and worship of the Supreme Personality Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own sons and family? Considering them a stumbling block in the path of spiritual life, how could he show such uncontrolled affection for a deer? This was definitely due to his past karma. The king was so engrossed in petting and maintaining the deer that he fell down from his spiritual activities. In due course of time, insurmountable death, which is compared to the venomous snake that enters the holes created by mouse, situated itself before him. Purport. It will be seen in this verse, in the later verse, Bharat Maharaj at the time of death would be forced to accept the body of a deer due to his attraction for the deer. In this regard, a question may be raised. How can a devotee be affected by his past misconduct and vicious activities? In Brahma Samhita 5.4, it is said, Karmani nidhanti kintyu che bhakti bhajam. For those engaged in devotional service, bhakti bhajan, the results of past deeds are indemnified. According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Mahabharat purposefully became over-addicted to deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. To immediately rectify his mistake, for a short time, he was awarded the body of a deer. This was just to increase his desire for mature devotional service. Although Bharat Maharaj was awarded the body of an animal, did not forget that what had previously happened due to his purposeful mistake. He was very anxious to get out of his dear body, and this indicates that his affection and devotion towards the service was intensified. So much so that he was quickly to attain perfection in Brahman body in the next life. It is with this conviction that he was declared back to Godhead Magazine. The devotees like the Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposefully commit some sinful activities are born in the bodies of God. Monkeys and tortoises in the Holy Land. Thus, they take on these lower life forms for a short while, and after they give up those animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Such punishment is only for a short period and is not due to past karmas. It may appear to be due to past karmas, but it is offered to rectify the devotees and bring him to pure devotional service. Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Sorry, I just got a little late.
Hare Krishna, Prabhupada.
Prabhu.
No
I
problem.
thought you were traveling, Prabhu.
Yeah, I just
Hare
like
Krishna.
completed the journey.
Okay.
Internet connection was a bit weak, so I thought it may not work.
Hare Krishna.
But this is a very interesting verse, actually. We should all discuss it. Maybe we can take this entire session just discussing this verse only. So, my dear king, in this way, Bharat Maharaj was overwhelmed by an uncontrollable desire which was manifest in the form of the deer. Due to the fruitive results of his past deeds, he fell down from mystic yoga, austerity, and worship of Supreme Personality of Godhead. If it were not due to his past fruitive activity, how could he have been attracted to the deer after giving up the association of his own son and family, considering them stumbling block on the path of spiritual life? See, we have discussed this previously also. The Srila Prabhupada talks about sense gratification. Sense gratification according to rules and regulations. So Prabhupada warns, he says that this marg of pravritti is not at all a recommended path for the devotees. Path of pravritti, for example, the great king Priyavrat. Priyavrat, in his childhood itself he took sannyas. Priyavrat was coming in the family of Manu. He was the brother of Devahuti. So he was the uncle of the Supreme Lord, Kapila Dev. Still, he took sannyas right from the beginning. So Srila Prabhupada explains it this way, that whether the fruitive activity is done according to rules and regulations, which is pravritti, which is pious activity, or whether the sense gratificatory activity is done as a sinful act, breaking the regulative principles, it always leaves an impression in the mind of a person. It always creates an impression. And that impression is binding us to the material form that we have acquired. For instance, like we see, animals are also addicted to sense gratification. The deer, they like to jump around in the forest. Monkeys, they like to jump in the trees. Or we see snakes, they like to crawl here and there. In every type of body that living entities have taken, there is always some sort of gratification. Now, when the living entity takes up a particular type of body, he engages in sense gratification according to the senses of that body, and he becomes addicted to them. So in this human birth also we see, because our intelligence is so highly refined, we create so many activities. So like a dog or a hog, he has just some gratification. They just engage in eating and mating. Eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. This is their sense of enjoyment. But we see in case of human beings, there is so many varieties. There's such a huge variety of enjoyment. You see, for example, the whole field of today I got some suggestion on YouTube. There is a man who's known as Math Wizard. So he talks about mathematics. And I've been studying the field of Western philosophy for some preaching activities. So Western philosophical thought, like hundreds of philosophers who have so many theories of everything. Literally everything under the sun, these philosophers have thought and theorized. This is gratification. This is just sense gratification. I can think, therefore I'll think whatever I feel like. Or you see the whole field of science and technology. That's just sense gratification. What is there? For example, big companies like you see Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, what do they do really? Recreational automobiles. That is just science and technology used for sense enjoyment. Dogs and cats, they run on 4 feet. But we have a whole field of science and technology, people acquiring PhDs and post-PhDs degrees just to design a car so that a man can run here and there on the street on 4 wheels. So you see, sense gratification is so strong that it forms very subtle impressions within us. Very subtle impressions. Srila Prabhupada, in one of his conversations, he says, even if you are 1% attached to this material world, you will have to take another body. You will happily take another body. Like today, if we are sent to Golok Vrindavan as we are, we won't be able to stay there. We would want to come back here because this world is seemingly more enjoyable for us. So, if you want to evaluate your purification in bhakti, read Krishna book or Brihad Bhagavatamrit and then try to compare how much your consciousness is fitting into that environment. One should remember that Krishna is not 24 hours dancing with gopis. Gopis are not dancing 24 hours. Like that happens only once or sometimes. But rest of the time, the gopis are standard ladies. They're just like normal ladies in their homes. So are we fitting into that consciousness? That's why you see, Srila Prabhupada mentions this, that why Krishna's pastimes are performed. So that we can understand, we can get a glimpse of the spiritual world. So whenever we engage in sense gratificatory activities, our mind becomes attached to material nature. We see the story of Gop Kumar, for instance, in Brihad Bhagavatamrit. Gop Kumar was an eternal associate of Krishna. He came from Golok Vrindavan along with Krishna, but in the material world, he became engaged in material games. And when Krishna went back, Gop Kumar did not notice. Krishna points this out. When Gop Kumar reaches Golok, Krishna points this out to Gop Kumar. He says, my dear Gop Kumar, where did you go? When I came back, when I came to earth, you came with me. But when I returned, you were not to be seen. And we are talking about Gop Kumar, eternal associate of Krishna. So, that also answers another question of ours. Do the living entities come from spiritual world or they come from Brahman? So here we have Sanatana Goswami himself answering this question. Living entities can be intimate associates of Krishna and still fall down. Or sometimes, like Srila Prabhupada says, even gopis can fall down, but they don't. But they can fall down. In this material world, anything that attracts us, like for example, right now I'm sitting near a window and there's a beautiful green tree outside and the sun is shining, it looks very pretty. If this impression I carry in my heart, this impression alone is enough to bring me back into material world. And then we can think, how many impressions and how many attachments we are carrying in this world. What to speak of wife and child and husband and so many other things. So king was engrossed. So king had given up his family. Now this is very interesting. King gave up his beautiful wife and sons. And he came to the forest and he did not remember them. But from many lifetimes he had carried his impressions. Therefore, when the deer came, all the emotions, all the impressions of past life, which were bursting in his heart, which were existing in his heart, they burst out as affection for that little deer. If we think carefully, we don't think twice before, sacrificing anybody else or anything else. Children leave their parents and they go to foreign countries just so that they can enjoy their lives. We do it in our lives all the times. But we can see, and Bharat Maharaj did the same thing. He left his family. But the impressions brought him back into this world. As soon as he saw the baby deer, all his past affections came up. And he became completely attached to that, so much so that he gave up his bhakti, which was in the bhava stage. We are still in sadhak stage. We have struggled chanting our rounds. And he was already experiencing bliss. But he fell down. So we can see how dangerous sense gratification is in this world. It could be something extremely innocuous, not even breaking the regulative principles. Extremely innocuous. But you see here, Srila Prabhupada says that once past impressions are indemnified, that means as long as you are executing bhakti, these past impressions are kept in hold. Like America, they have this thing called plea bargain. If you agree to lesser criminal charge and assist in law enforcement, then you will get a lesser punishment. But if you again go out and perform some crime, then all the old charges will be brought up and you will be again punished. So our past impressions, our past actions and reactions are indemnified. They are kept in abeyance. If we continuously execute our bhakti in this body, then they will be completely burnt up and we'll go back to Godhead. But again, if we engage in sensual activities, all those would come back and we would be in deep trouble. So, and we may even have to take lower bodily forms. And here we see Maharaj Bharat took the form of a deer. What could be our destination? Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments here? This is a very interesting verse. Yes, Pranav Prabhu, you have some question to ask? Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam ji.
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji, this is hard to understand where we say, Nam, Nami and are one. And Nami, Krishna, actually burns up everything that's in our heart.
Yeah.
So we're at the stage where Bharat Maharaj was, like how much deep-rooted those impressions could be that were not burnt at the stage he was at.
So we see here that he was relishing. So, we have had this discussion previously also, different stages of realization. So in the bhava stage, you develop emotions for the Lord. Shunyayatam jagat sarvam govinda virahenani. So material world means virah. We are separated from the Lord. So separation from the Lord. Like for example, when your child was small, okay, when your child is small and you drop him off to school or kindergarten, he starts crying. So he starts crying. Why is he crying? Because this is the first time he has gone away from home. He's remembering his mother, father, his toys, his house, his brothers, sisters, and he's feeling unhappy. I mean, this is our experience also. We were kids. At least I was, I can tell you that much. I never liked my school. I never liked my engineering college. I never liked my master's college. And I don't like my office. In fact, now I'm grown up, I'm an orphan, but still I don't want to go out of home. So you see, so the attraction is very strong. When the child is in school, when he goes to the school for the first time, he's crying, he's unhappy, he's calling for his mother. But he goes once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, 20 times. Then he makes friends. He starts liking his teachers, his playgroups. Then slowly this attachment to mother weakens. And the child doesn't remember mother so much. He may occasionally become sad in the school, but slowly he starts liking it. Then he gets used to it. Then he feels happy. And when he grows more and more, he may actually just want to go there also. So you see, in the bhava stage, we are separated from the Lord. So now we are actually in spiritual life, we are trying to kind of, we are trying to reverse this process. We are trying to rekindle our affection for Krishna. So when we are reversing this process, we reach a stage where we start feeling the separation. So Shunyayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me. So in this Viraha stage, we still are not face to face with Krishna. Paramatma within the heart is a reflection of the Lord. He's not the Lord himself. For example, you're staying here in Canada. Your parents are in Punjab. You may make video calls to them. But video call to your mother is not quite the same as actually seeing her face to face.
Yes.
So Paramatma is like that, Pratibimba, that reflection, like a video call. Like that WhatsApp call within our heart. So the separation is still there. It is mitigated by seeing the Paramatma. Okay, the Lord is there, but it is not complete satisfaction. There is no rati there. We cannot be with the Lord.
Yes.
So in that stage, these impressions are still existing. We are in Viraha because we are still attached to material body. We are here. So at that stage, it is our duty to push ourselves further and further into complete prema. Hey Radhe Brajadevike, hey Nand Shuno, hey Radhe, hey Brajadevike, hey Lalite cha Sakhi Vishakhe, hey Nanda Shuno Kutao. This is what the 6 Goswamis are singing. So they have, from bhav, they have progressed to prema stage. Because it's material world, they are not able to perceive Krishna there. So therefore, they are feeling the separation. That is the prema stage of bhakti. So we have to push ourselves to that. There is ecstasy in bhav stage. Actually, the ecstasy starts from sadhana stage itself. Then you start relishing the devotional service. When first glimpses of Krishna arise in your heart, you'll start relishing devotional service. Then though it may look like tapasya to outsiders, for you it is not. In the old days, for example, when I was a student in the 90s, we just used to have these STD phone booths.
Yes.
So you could just call home. They were very expensive calls, like 10 rupees for one call or something like that in the 90s. So we would go to this STD booth and there would be some boy already calling his parents. Then we would just wait outside in a line in the evening time. Then he would leave. Then we would go out and we would make a phone call. And that would be like 3-4 minutes because it was damn expensive. So that is sadhana stage, tapasya. But, it may look very austere. We're spending so much money, we're taking so much of pains, and we are calling up someone. But it was pleasure because we were talking to our parents. But now, so in Krishna consciousness also, sadhana goes like this. So when you start getting first glimpses of Krishna, when you actually start getting into Krishna consciousness, you start getting hope that, okay, one day I'll meet my father. So then tapasya becomes, then it's no longer an austerity. You may feel some struggle, okay, like, getting up early in the morning, taking cold shower, that will be painful. But, there's hope. So you are doing it. In the prem stage, there are no rules and regulations. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did not even wake up early in the morning. after he had his conversation with Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu went to wake him in the morning and he didn't even wake up. Mahaprabhu went, he said, oh Bhattacharya, what are you doing? Like the sun has already risen. So I have got you some prasad from Jagannath. So Bhattacharya, he just took the prasad and he ate it. So Mahaprabhu laughed. He said, oh Bhattacharya, what are you doing? You're breaking the Brahmanical principles. You have not done your shaucha. You have not cleansed yourself. But you are touching the Mahaprasad. So Bhattacharya said, oh, for those who have already attained the loving devotional service, there are no rules and regulations. There are no rules for honoring Mahaprasad. You should accept it immediately. This is confirmed in Bhagavatam also, in the 8th canto, 4th chapter, Liberation, 8th canto, 3rd chapter, Gajendra Moksha. There, Gajendra is also praying the same way. Those who are advanced in devotional life, there are no rules and regulations for those who are self-realized. That's prema stage. Because rules and regulations are to purify ourselves. One who has already attained complete purification meaning that there is no desire for sense gratification. There are no rules. The fire engine, the police van, the ambulance, they have no traffic rules. They can drive wherever they want. So in this way, at that stage, then there is very unlikely that we will fall down. It's very unlikely.
And then why does it say some devotees like the Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit some sinful activities? Like we are talking about Goswamis.
Oh.
And that too living in Vrindavan. Why would they purposely commit some sinful activity?
Oh, no. These are not Goswamis. They are not Shada Goswamis. They are the Goswami families.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like Prabhupada had a friend in Vrindavan. His name was Gopal Goswami. So it's a very funny incident. This Gopal Goswami, one day, he was one day Brahmanand Prabhu and this are Gargamuni Prabhu. So Srila Prabhupada took Gargamuni Prabhu, Brahmanand Prabhu, Guru Das Prabhu. He took them all to meet Gopal Goswami. So Gopal Goswami had invited them for lunch. So they came there and he cooked very nice Bengali feast. And they were all relishing. Prabhupada was very happy chatting and everything. Then after some time, what happened was, now this Gopal Goswami was actually practically blind. He was an old man. He used to wear this, soda bottle glasses. He couldn't see anything practically. But he loved Prabhupada. So Prabhupada also used to reciprocate. So one day Prabhupada, after the feast, this Gopal Goswami disappeared somewhere. And the devotees saw smoke coming from one of the rooms. So Gargamuni Prabhu, he quietly went there, Brahmanand Prabhu, he quietly went there and, opened the curtain. And Gopal Goswami was smoking a bidi behind the curtain. So he couldn't see, but as soon as he heard the curtain opening, he just started, he started shouting, Govinda, Govinda. He threw the bidi and he said, Govinda, Govinda. So Brahmanand Prabhu came back. So after the feast was over, they came out. So Prabhupada asked Brahmanand Prabhu. He said, so Brahmanand, what do you think of Gopal? Or Govind, this Gopal Goswami. So Brahmanand said, Prabhupada, I think he's a rascal. Prabhupada said, And then, but I think you love him. Then Prabhupada laughed. He said, yes. So this is something we cannot understand. Mahaprabhu says we cannot understand the heart of great Goswamis. Yeah, so I mean, of course, we can assume if Prabhupada loved him, then his position must be really something.
Must be something. Must be
yeah,
something.
So then in that case, that smoking of bidi was like a spot on the moon. Makes no difference.
He
was already attained that.
Bidi, but otherwise they smoke ganja.
Yeah. No, bidi was like a fairly common thing in those days. This is the 70s. Indian.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes.
About Bharat Maharaj, it is said that it was his purv karmas. And usko nullify karne ke liye, this path was taken by very small punishment or say motivation, so that he could get out of it. As per literature or Shastras, it is mentioned what was the past life of Bharat Maharaj.
No, it is not mentioned, but it is mentioned in the purport here. If you read this
Purport.
carefully, just they take on these lower forms. So, devotees like Goswamis living in Vrindavan who purposely commit some sinful activity are born in the bodies of dogs, monkeys, and tortoises in that holy land. Thus, they take on these lower life forms for a short while. After they give up these animal bodies, they are again promoted to the spiritual world. Now this line you hear very carefully. Such punishment is only for a short period, and it is not due to past karma. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. So it is not a punishment for karma. It is a punishment to rectify his desires, to purify his desires.
Okay.
If there's a child in the house, he says, "Papa, I want to smoke a cigarette." The father will slap him. Now, the child has not smoked a cigarette. Then why is he getting punished? Just to purify that desire. The father knows if he smokes cigarette, then there is a lot of trouble. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Prabhu?
Yeah, Prabhu. Absolutely.
Hari. Yes, Archana Mataji, you also had a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It was actually the same question, this purposely committing thing. But then one more thing, Prabhuji, is that why do these Goswamis or these people have to be degraded to animal bodies only? There are human beings also, 4 lakh human beings, depending upon the consciousness. So why can't they go to a lower human consciousness, and are they so degraded that they have to go to an animal body only and come back?
I will try to find an answer to this question, because because this life is very short also. Dogs, hogs, like 10 years, 5 years. Like in Vrindavan, a dog will not live more than 5 years. There's so much pollution.
But that shouldn't matter, no? It is like purifying the consciousness, purifying the desires. That is the main intention behind all this.
One reason could possibly be that animals don't have too much free will. They can't do sinful activities. Animals have a degraded life, like a defined arch, a defined path. But a human being can commit. Like if one takes a body of a Shudra, one can perform many sinful activities still further, because one's desires will become also degraded. Like we'll see the instance of one king in Bhagavatam. It will come in around 7th or 8th canto. One king who was cursed to become a Rakshasa. So as soon as he was cursed, he developed an insatiable hunger for human flesh. So the body also gives us those sanskaras. So one possible reason is that in this animal body, they are completely helpless. Human being still has some, false ego that he can do something, but an animal is completely helpless. So if they retain their consciousness in the animal body, then they become very repentant. But it's also a human body. Like for example, Maharaj, who was he? Yamraj. He committed an offense, therefore he was degraded to a Shudra, Vidura. So of course there are like layers of that pastime. One was that he committed offense against a Brahmana. The second one was that he got to render direct devotional service to Krishna. I mean, he could feed Krishna with his own hands. I mean, I would gladly become a Shudra like that. So it is possible, but animals generally, because there is more repentance in the body of an animal.
Means like Bharat Maharaj, they also would remember their...
Yes. I mean, they're Goswamis. They're not ordinary. Because Prabhupada is mentioning, it is not a punishment for sinful activity. It is a punishment for sinful desire. Like, in a school, like you're a teacher, that you will always punish your best student most. Because the best student is expected to have a very high standard. If he makes a mistake, then he must be punished. That punishment is not for the mistake he has made. It is for the desire to make a mistake.
But then that is true for anybody, no, Prabhuji? Like they are punished for the desires only, punished for this. Nobody is really punished for the activities, because that's why we don't remember whatever we are suffering because of our past karmas. We don't remember the activities, but we know that we had this mentality. That is why we are suffering.
So karma is also punished actually. The main, yes, you are right. The main objective is to purify the desire, but karma is punished heavily. But here the punishment is not, the punishment is not what you can say equivalent to the crime. Maharaj Bharat, like what sin he committed? He was not even sinful. Actually, he did a pious activity. In fact, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu is promising that for a devotee, like, in Bhagavatam also, like if at Vishnu Puran, if my devotee is unable to remember me at the time of his death, I will personally manifest in his heart. Vishnu is promising. So why Vishnu doesn't manifest here in Bharat Maharaj's heart? Because he doesn't want this kind of a, silly desire to come in his heart. So in order to purify him, he's given this punishment, because this is not a punishment for the sinful activity, because there was no sin here. I mean, he could have taken birth as a family man again, since he was so attracted to a child. He was a pious soul. He was like a liberated soul. It's like a, this punishment is not commensurate. It's a disproportionate punishment. That's why I see Bhagavatam, it's like you have to think and think. These words are extremely heavy. Okay, now here, I'll take one question from Pranav Prabhu also. Just a confusion in the sense as to why is Srila Prabhupada seemingly contradicting Shukadev Goswami? Where exactly is the contradiction, Prabhu? Can you just mention one line where you see a contradiction? Okay.
According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. It seems slightly contradictory to
the king was so engrossed. Due to the fruitive results, he fell down from mystic yoga. Which line, Prabhu? Where, according to this, okay. Karmani nirrahati kintucha bhakti bhajam. For those engaged in devotion service, bhakti bhajan, the result of past deeds are indemnified.
So you said it's kept in abeyance. It's kept in abeyance.
Yeah, so you see this. According to this, Bharat Maharaj, so let's read these sentences. According to this, Bharat Maharaj could not be punished for his past misdeeds. The conclusion must be that Bharat Maharaj purposefully became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his advancement. To immediately rectify this mistake, for a short while, he was awarded the body of a deer. It may appear to be due to past karma, but it is offered to rectify the devotee and bring him to pure devotional service. So when we get punished for our sins, it's very difficult. Sometimes we may lose our consciousness. But when a devotee is punished, his consciousness becomes sharpened. Krishna's punishment is in such a way that the devotee thinks more and more of him. But those who are sinful, they are put into unconscious positions. Like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, those who are demonic, I cast them into hellish species from which they never return. So like horrible demons, like, dictators, politicians, criminals, they are put into grossly unconscious species of life. But here, there is no contradiction. This is exactly what Bhagavatam is saying, that this is not a punishment for his karma. This is just a slight rap on the knuckle to purify his consciousness.
But he again says in 1866, abandon all varieties of religion and surrender. So Maharaj Bharat was already a surrendered person. He was doing devotional service. And he shall deliver you from sinful reactions. So his past karma or sinful reactions are already washed by the Lord.
Yes.
But here, do not fear. So then he is ensuring that he quickly comes back to the path. Is that what we should then take from that?
Yes, Prabhu. Because it is mentioned explicitly that there was no sinful activity committed by him. He just abandoned his path of devotion. So Krishna was a little unhappy with him. Maharaj Bharat purposefully became over-addicted to the deer and neglected his spiritual advancement. He did not do anything sinful. So if he were like a karmi or something, Krishna would have given him a slightly different body and that's it. But because he was a pure devotee of the Lord and he was neglecting his duty, Krishna just kind of shook him up. Here, pay your attention. Where are you going? So therefore, in the body of a deer, he did not repeat this mistake. So does that clarify your doubt, Prabhu?
Some extent, but if you see the previous few verses too, there are instances where, for example, I mean, at least in the way Maharaj Bharat was practicing devotional service, he laid down on the deer skin and then kusa grass, and then when he was going to perform his devotional activities, the deer would come and he would get distracted. So then, would it not be that by Vedic injunctions, there are multiple things that he has to do, and each of that which he neglects to do would cause karmic bondage kind of a thing?
Yes, that's correct.
Or so all of that is bundled together and taken as this misdeed kind of stuff.
Yes, Prabhu, absolutely right. Like, for example, Prabhupada writes that, Ashtanga yogis sometimes they would surround themselves with fire in the months of summer, and in the winter they would go neck deep in freezing river. This is done to remind oneself that the body is miserable. So in this way, Maharaj Bharat was supposed to purify himself by following all the paths, all the regulations of yoga process, but he started neglecting them one by one. And because of that neglect, he started becoming more and more attached to that deer.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay. Yes, so Pranav Prabhu, is your question answered now?
Yes, Prabhuji.
If it is still there, you can call me and we can discuss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so thank you very much, and once again my apologies for being late today. We'll start on time tomorrow. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Dandavat pranam.